Hello and welcome to episode 156 of Daryl Show Your Work. All right, so in some previous videos, I showed how we could gain access to some Windows NTLM hashes and how we could use those hashes to then pass them in terms of authenticating and being able to do so without necessarily having to crack them for the clear text password. And I also showed in another video of how we could then dump some Linux-based passwords or passwords in a Linux-based system and then crack those. So I decided why don't I just combine both of those efforts into one video and basically showing how we could first gain access to those NTLM password hashes, and then once we gain them, and then what methodologies we could do to crack and gain access to further access into the target host. All right, so just to briefly go over what exactly is NTLM. It's actually a collection of authentication protocols that are utilized in Windows to facilitate authentication between two computers. The authentication process involves using a valid username and password to authenticate successfully. When a user account is created, it is encrypted with an MD4 hashing algorithm while the original password is disposed of. All right, so that's the NTLM password hashing in a nutshell, and that's what I'm going to be aiming to get a to gain access to, and then to try to convert to clear text um, passwords and to be able to further authenticate into the system. So before I do so, since I am talking about exploitation and this is red teaming, offensive security related activity, I want to preface this video with my usual disclaimer by saying that this is for ethical research and educational purposes only. Any sort of malicious activity that may directly or indirectly come from someone watching this video, I do not take responsibility for, nor do I condone. All right, so I've done some pre recording discovery for us. So my target is located at 10.3.21.143. All right, so I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to jump straight into Metasploit, and I'm going to use Metasploit here because I want to focus again mostly on the dumping and cracking of those password hashes, and less on the exploitation in itself. So I'm going to try to automate that as much as possible to get us through that phase as quickly as possible. All right, so I'm gonna start things up. I'm gonna say service, and then first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start up the PostgreSQL database, and I'm going to combine that with the step of starting up the msfconsole. All right, now that that's fully booted up, I'm going to create a workspace for myself. So I'm gonna say workspace dash A, and I'm going to name it hashdump, since that is the focus of this video. All right, and then I'm also going to set our target host as a global parameter. So I only anticipate really using one module here, but it's just good practice just to set things up globally where you can. All right, so I'm just going to set that up so I don't have to configure that again within a module. And then let's run an nmap scan here on our target host. So I'm gonna say since I'm doing that within Metasploit, I have to put db underscore nmap. And again, like I always say when I do this, the great thing about running the nmap scan inside of the Metasploit framework is going to save all of the findings, all of those enumerated details within the database, and I could query them at any time while I'm in Metasploit. All right, and then I'm going to actually do a service version scan. All right, and so I'm going to see what ports are open, what services and versions of those services are running, so I can then be able to determine what, if any, service I want to exploit here. So this may take a couple seconds to a minute or so. Uh, so some patience is needed. All right. So got quite a bit of feedback here in terms of open ports and services. So we can see that port 80 is indeed running, and it does have HTTP assigned to it, which it should, since that's the default port. And it looks like it's running the badblue web application server. So if you watched any of my previous videos, we know that this particular web application server and version is vulnerable to a CVE 2007 6377 exploit. All right, and then we also see that SMB is open here. Port 445, 139, and 135 all related to that. So that's an option. We see that port 3389, which is RDP, is open as well. All right, so as always, I'm going to go for the low hanging fruit here, and I am going to exploit this badblue web application server here. So I'm going to search for the related exploit module. So I'm going to search badblue. All right, and that brings me to two different exploitations here, and I'm gonna go for the second one on the list, which is the pass blue buffer overflow related exploit. All right, so I'm gonna say use one, since that is the module ID on the list. I don't believe I have to configure anything, but let's just go to show options just to verify. All right, we can see that our host is already set since I set that globally. The R port is set to 80 since this targets the HTTP protocol by default. And then my IP address is set as the L host, which is good. The L port is set to port 4444, which is fine. All right, so let's get started exploiting it. And I should be getting a meterpreter session here in a couple of seconds. It looks like, all right, there's my meterpreter session. All right, so let's do some of the initial enumeration here once gaining entry to the system before I just jump straight into trying to dump those NTLM hashes. All right, so we can see that that this machine is running an operator 64-bit version of Windows Server 2012 revision 2, but I am using a 32-bit meterpreter session here. All right, so let's see who I'm logged in as and get an idea of what type of privileges I may have. Say get UID, and I have elevated privileges. So that's great because I'm going to need those in order to be able to dump those hashes. All right, so I shouldn't need to elevate that any further, and I could verify what privileges I have by saying get privs. And these are usually the privileges that are associated with the administrator account. So I should be fine. But just to make sure I have a stable connection here, I am going to try to migrate to a process that I know that is stable, and to get a 64-bit interpreter session here. So I'm going to say pgrep, and not sure why my keyboard did that, but no worries. pgrep, and I'm gonna migrate. Let me see if the lsass process is running here. Great, it is. So let's migrate to that because it's a 64-bit process. I'm migrating to 400 process 496, um, which is the lsass process. All right, and if I do sysinfo again, now I have that 64-bit meterpreter session going, which is great. Okay, so now it's time to dump those hashes. So I'm gonna say hash dump. All right, and I just want to explain exactly what's going on here when I use hash dump. So this is going to dump and display a list of NTLM excuse me, NTML hashes. No, I had it right. NTLM hashes of user accounts from the SAM database. And what the SAM database is, that's actually short for Security Account Manager. So it's a database file that's responsible for managing user accounts and passwords on Windows. So all user account passwords stored in the SAM database are hashed. Think similarly to the Etsy password file. All right, but some of the SAM database, but excuse me, but the SAM database file, it can't be copied while the operating system is running, unlike the that shadow file within Linux. So in memory techniques. So think when I say in memory, think of cache. All right, are needed to access the contents, and so that's essentially what I'm doing here, and these elevated privileges allow me to use in-memory techniques such as hash dump to be able to gain access to these hashes that are within the SAM database. All right, so with no further ado, let's run this. All right, so we can see that I have the password hashes or the NTLM hashes for the administrator account and a Bob account and a guest account, but usually the guest account is usually is disabled, so I'm going to disregard that. And I really want well, I really want the administrator account, but it's good to have multiple account credentials here. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to open up another window here. I'm going to split this vertically, and let's see. Let's get this back to that font. Good. All right. So over here, I'm gonna say nano, and I'm gonna create a text file and to store these hashes in, because essentially I want to use this text file to run a cracking tool against it in order to be able to crack these hashes. So I need to store them somewhere. All right, so I'm gonna paste them here within hash.txt. All right, then I'm gonna say Ctrl X to exit and then Y to save. All right, and then I'm gonna verify that that is indeed saved in my local directory, which it is. We can see right here hash.txt, and let's see, and then I want to just verify that everything was copied correctly into that. All right, so there's the output there, so we can see that the administrator and Bob NTLM hashes have been successfully saved within hash.txt. So now I can before getting started doing that, I want to check something. All right, so one thing to check, just because when I initially did hash dump, it came back and with these three different accounts. Don't mean those are the only accounts on the machine. So it's always good to go to go back and check to see if there's any other accounts that are present on the machine here. So in order to do that, I'm gonna go back to our interpreter window, and I'm gonna say shell to go into the Windows command line, and then I'm gonna say net user, and this is going to show me all the available user accounts here on this machine. All right, so I can see that Administrator Bob and guests are indeed the only ones available. All right, so that's just me double checking. It's always good to do so because you just never know. Sometimes there may be other accounts that you can get hashes for as well. All right, so I'm gonna do a Control C to terminate that and exit out. All right, so back over here. So now I want to start using a tool here to crack the hashes. So the first one I'm going to use here is John the Ripper, which is a fairly popular crack cracking tool, which comes already installed in Kali, the Kali Linux OS, if you're using it. All right, so first I want to be able to see, get a list of all hash formats that is actually able to crack, just to make sure that an NTLM format is amongst those. So I'm gonna say John dash dash list equals formats, and this should give me that full list. All right, we can see there's a bunch here. So if I wanted to get a more concise list, just of those relevant to NTLM, I'm gonna say pipe grep, and then in this case I'm gonna just say NT. All right, because that's how this format is represented here on this list is NT. All right, and then we can see that the NT format is indeed available. All right, so I'm going to then specify that when running John. All right, so the next thing I have to do here is John dash dash, and I want to specify. This is why I'm going to specify the format, which is going to be equal to NT, and then I want to run this against hash.txt. All right, so I could specify a word list here, but if you don't, if you can just use John the Ripper's default word list. And the next tool that we're using, I am going to specify a word list, but I'm just going to, in this instance with John, I'm just going to use its default word list here, and that's what happens when you don't specify here on the command line. But in order to, I could just say um, dash dash word list equals, and then I would put which directory that's housed in. All right, just FYI. All right, so let's run that and let's see what happens. All right, so that fast, it was able to crack the passwords. All right, so a few things that we can see here is that it did indeed pick up that there were two password excuse me, available with no salts. Remember in my previous video, I mentioned what salts were those added values to add a sense of complexity to the password, but none of that was within these NTLM hashes. All right, and so we can see that it was indeed hashed with the MD4 algorithm, and then we can see then what the output of that was password one for Bob and just simply password for administrator. So I'm going to copy these into my mouse pad, and let's recopy this IP address because I have a feeling I'm going to need it later. All right. So now I also want to show, in case in case you have a preference for one tool over another, I want to show how we could do this for a hashcat as well. Or let's say you may only have John, or you may only have hashcat, or you prefer hashcat. I'm going to show us how to do that. All right. So first thing I want to do, as promised, I was going to run a customized word list, well, non-default, I should say, word list using hashcat. So in order for me to use that, I actually have to unzip it because right now it's in a compressed folder. So I'm gonna say gzip -d for decompress, and then I have to specify what directory it's located in. So I'm gonna say it's located in user share word lists. And the name of that word list is, those of you who have done this before should be very familiar with this, is RockU. So a very famous word list that's used for password cracking. .txt, and then it is in the GZ format as well. All right, so this should unzip that, and it should now be unzipped in that directory. All right, and then the next thing I have to do is I need to do some enumeration of finding out what is the the code for because you have to use code. You can't just specify the format. You have to use a code here. So there's format codes for the algorithm or the method in which a hash may be hashed in, or and then also there's a code for the attack type you want to do in order to crack that password. All right, so in order for me to do that, I'm gonna say hashcat and simply dash dash help, and the help menu should appear here. All right, so if I go up a little bit, I'm gonna have to do some bit of digging. So I'm looking for uh, NTLM, and I'm trying to, over here where we see these numbers, this is what's going to tell me what the hash ID is for that, and that's what I have to specify on the command line when running when we're running a hashcat. All right, so just scrolling up a little bit, quite a bit of different hash IDs here. All right, let's see. All right, let's see. There we go. Okay, so here we are. NTLM, and the ID associated is 1000. All right. So for those watching at home that may be trying to follow along as best as they can, I've done the hard work for you. Just remember that when using hashcat, the ID associated with NTLM is 1000. All right. And then if I come down here, I want to be able to find the attack type. So let's find the ID for that, and that shouldn't be nearly as long as that. Here we go. So the attack modes. All right. So I want to conduct a brute force attack here. So that's going to be a number of 3. That's going to be an ID number of 3. All right. So 1003. Those are 2 numbers I need to remember here when writing this command. So I'm gonna say hashcat dash when A for attack, and then I'm gonna say 3. All right, and then I'm gonna say dash M for mode, and then basically 1000. That's me giving it the format mode for NTLM, and then I want to run this against hash.txt, and then I want to specify the word list that I just decompressed here, that Rocky word list. So I'm gonna say user share word lists, and then rock you, and then txt. All right, so just checking my syntax here. Let's see, that looks good. All right, so let's get that running. Let's see what happens. All right, so initially, hashcat is going to come back here with my specifications to the machine I'm using. So already we can see that it found two hashes. All right, and it's basically just let me know that it's running. So again, some patience. This should take a few seconds to a minute or so. All right, we can see that running. All right, so we can see that it cracked one password. So I've already took us through scrolling through a fairly long list here, so I'm not going to scroll through the entirety of this whole list of all this different attempts of trying to crack a password. Fortunately, one of the passwords we can see here was indeed cracked, and if we compare apples to apples here from the list that we have here, it looked like it actually cracked the password, one password, which is associated with Bob. So the Bob password was indeed cracked here on the list. I'm not going to try to scroll up further for the administrator password because again, I don't want to take up too much more time trying to find a list of something we already have. Just want to show how we can use another tool here to gain the same bit of information. All right, so we can DC that it cracked again um, NTLM hash associated with the Bob account and got the same thing password one. All right, so now that we have these clear text passwords, there's different. If you remember going back up here to our nmap scan. All right, so if we remember, we have a bunch of other ports that were open other than just port 80. All right, we had some SMB ports open. We had an RDP port open. So let's see what happens if we try to connect via RDP with these clear text credentials and see if we can get into the desktop here. All right, so I want to be able to use the administrator account, of course, since that has the elevated privileges. So I'm going to try to give it the username, administrator, and password. When I say it, excuse me, I mean the free RDP application. So let's get started on that. So to get that started up, I'm going to say X free RDP. All right, and then first I'm going to specify the user, which is going to be administrator, and then I'm gonna specify the password, which is going to be well, hold on, yeah, do the password there, which is going to be simply password, and then I'm gonna specify my where our target's IP address, since that's where I'm telling it to aim it at, where we want to gain access to. All right, so I'm telling FreeRDP to grant us desktop access to the administrator account using the password, and this is located at the IP address 10.3.21.143. Let's run that, see what happens. I'm gonna say yes to trust the certificate. Oh, look at there, and bam, we have access. All right. So basically taking us through the whole process of enumeration. Um, um, Basically, once I've already did that discovery for us, pre-recording, running an nmap scan against our target host, we found that it had numerous ports open, as we can see here. Decided to exploit the badblue 2.7 related vulnerability. All right, using a Metasploit exploit module, a pass-through buffer overflow related one. Once we were able to gain a meterpreter session with this with our target host, did some of the new initial enumeration. Found out that I had elevated privileges going in, which was great, which would enable me to be able to do everything I've done beyond that. Decided that I wanted to just for the sake of some stability, wanted to upgrade my interpreter session, so I migrated to a 64-bit process in order to do so. Once I did that, I conducted a hash dump, which basically accessed that in memory cache. All right, which that was associated with the SAM database. So I dumped those credentials for the administrator account, Bob account, verified though that those were the only accounts by actually going to the Windows command line, doing a net user command, and found out that those are indeed the only accounts available to me. So once I found that out, copy those hashes, save them into a text file, Then use John the Ripper and hashcat against those against that text file. Got the same results as far as the password. The password for Bob being password one. The password for the administrator being password. And so once I was able to verify that, decided to go back to our list of open ports and try to authenticate into the RDP protocol, which I was able to do successfully with the credentials that I gained. And now we have a desktop session here with our target host. All right, so please like, share, subscribe. Most importantly, show your work. Until next time, take care of yourself and God bless.